Today I wanted to focus just a little bit on special education. One of the things I wanted to focus on was how an IEP, or Individualized Educational Program, is developed. Co-teaching and collaboration is a big part of special education. So I wanted to give a brief synopsis on the challenges and the benefits of this area. And finally, I wanted to look at some best practices for an inclusive classroom. Hello everyone. If you are new to my channel, my name is Mary Ellen and I'm an educator in the state of Illinois. Before I begin, I do want to give a brief disclaimer. I retrieved most of my information from 3 sources. Now, I'm sure that most of you are familiar with Harry Wong's famous statement where he said that educators beg, borrow, and steal. Now, I am not into that stealing part, so I want to make sure that you are aware of where I retrieved my information. I work in special education, so the facts and the laws are pretty much straightforward and laid out for us. So when we provide information, it pretty much sounds the same. So some of the information that I'm going to give you is a direct quotation. I do want to let you know that. Some of it is directly quoted from these resources. Some of it's going to be paraphrased from these resources, and yet some of it is going to be in my own words, but it's going to sound very similar. One of the resources that I used is a book titled Strategies for Teaching Learners with Special Needs, the 11th edition. I have cited this book in the description box below. The second resource that I used was a website. It's Resources Ed, a Promethean blog, and it was titled Reimagining the Modern Classroom. And I did briefly look over a special education program called Embrace. So let's dive in. As I move through the PowerPoint, I may not mention each and every category that is visually shown. So make sure that you are actively participating and reading along as I present. First, we are going to look at an IEP and how it is developed. One of the areas that must be present in an IEP is the present levels of academic achievement and functional performance. So what actually goes under the present levels? Here I have a concept map showing you items that would be placed under this category. You will have things like the student's strength, reading and math, parent concerns, the student's health, and you always want to make sure that the student has had a vision and hearing screening within the past year. You want to look at the student's motor ability, any social or emotional issues they may have, and just make sure that you are covering how the student is performing in both of these areas. Okay, you've covered the present levels. It's time to move on to goals, objectives, and benchmarks. You will create annual goals for the student, and as you are creating these goals, think of that little red train. Instead of writing them as an I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, make sure you're writing them as I know I can, I know I can, I know I can. Also, make sure you state what the goal relates to and how you will be assessing mastery. Make sure that you add a statement of special education and related services and supplementary aids and services that will be provided to the individual. It is important to provide a statement showing the student's placement. Make sure that you include a start and end date for the services. You must also record how many minutes and frequency the individual receives these services. An example would be how many minutes per month the student receives this service. You also need to note where the individual is being pulled from in order to receive those services. Another area of the developmental process is assessments. Look at how the individual is going to take classroom, district, and state assessments. Transition goals. According to the Illinois State Board of Education, the Illinois Transition Requirements, transition planning begins for the first IEP that will be in effect at the age of 14 and a half years. I'm going to go ahead and cite this in the description box as well. It also states that beginning no later than the first IEP to be in effect when the child turns 16 and updated annually thereafter, the IEP must include appropriate measurable post-secondary goals based upon age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, education, employment, and, where appropriate, independent living. Another area that needs to be included is the transfer of rights. The student must be provided notification 1 year before turning 18 that the rights to make decisions regarding their education will be transferred to them when they turn 18. It is important for parents to be knowledgeable on their rights as part of an IEP team, as well as on contact procedures. That was a pretty quick rundown on developing an IEP. Now I want to move on to a synopsis of another area of special education, which is collaborating and co-teaching. This section of special education comes with both benefits and challenges. Some of the benefits or positives are that this provides a form of data teams. The teachers can come together, review data, collaborate over the data, and problem solve the recurring issues they are seeing. Then they can collaboratively plan lessons to help address these issues. Once these practices or lessons have been put into place, the teachers can then provide each other with constructive feedback. So what about the challenges or the negatives? Well, first of all, even the best teacher in the world can wilt if they are not in an environment that works for them where they can thrive. That is why it is important for the administrator to know their teachers and find a working environment for them. If the teachers do not have mutual respect with each other or have an incapability of working with one another, all of the planning falls to one teacher, or there is an ineffective teaching style from one teacher. This can create a tense working environment. This environment is not only stressful for the educators, but it can also be harmful for the student's learning process as well. Lastly, I want to look at best practices for an inclusion classroom. In an inclusion classroom, you want to make sure everyone is engaged and collaborating. They should be interacting with one another and participating in self-discovery. Immediate feedback can be provided to the students during this time, and formative assessment should be completed. Lessons should be personalized towards the students. Think about their learning styles and environments. Even simple modifications can change the educational experience for a child immensely. Just as a quick review for what we looked at today, an IEP is an Individualized Educational Program. The developmental process has multiple steps to it: present levels, goals, objectives, and benchmarks, statement of program modifications or support for school personnel, special education related services and placement, assessment accommodations, transition goals, statement of parent, guardian, and student notice of transfer of rights, and procedures of how parents will be contacted. In addition, another area of special education we looked at was collaboration and co-teaching. This section of special education comes with both benefits or positives and its challenges, or what we could call negatives. Lastly, we focused on an inclusion classroom. Students should be engaged and collaborating. Lessons should be personalized and feedback should be provided. Thank you so much for watching. And remember to be proud of your work, productive in your day, and positively joyful.